Hello, scrufftards, degenerates, basement dwellers, and all you beautiful weirdos online. Welcome to the War Zone. I'm Scruffy, and this is Scruffy Tales. And we're gonna be discussing a Russian BTR assault. I mentioned this in my previous video earlier today, and it garnered some responses, my comments about what the Russians were doing. And I just don't get me wrong, I think this is a fascinating topic and subject. So I just feel like, do I type things in the comment section or do I make a video about it? I figured, why not make a video about it? So it's kind of like a response video to a couple of comments, and I'm sure I'm gonna get more comments in that video. And the video is, of course, a Ukrainian push into Toretsk, and in that we talk about assault tactics, and in the image, the assault in question is a BTR, Russian BTR, that drives up to Ukrainian positions and apparently stops in the middle of a field and dismounts 6 troops, and they then conduct the assault. And that is the black dotted arrow, and I made this point that maybe they should have tried and reached cover before dismounting, the red arrow. And I got an interesting response from a couple of people, and this one in particular from Blind Monkey. The US Army published a paper in 2024 about Russian tactics, which discuss some of these points. And he brings up fire support vehicle requires clear lines of fire to effectively suppress the known enemy position. And the closer you are to cover and stuff like that, you know, it's easier to hit a mine or hit a pothole or whatever. And dismounts, you need space to deploy and to be able to open fire. And like it says here, target reference points, certain points in the terrain you use for as reference when guiding in artillery and what have you for precise fire. Speed of approach. The open terrain is faster to move through on foot onto the objective than covered terrain, and concealed positions more likely to have mass casualty event from a concealed firing position if dismounting close to that position. Support fire helps suppress or reveal these positions. And all good points. But there seems to be the idea here is that you only have enemies in one direction for all of this to fully function. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I think this is a fascinating topic, and I like to talk about it, and no critique. So let's go through. This is the situation. BTR stops in the middle of the field, dismounts 6 guys, and the assault is aimed at this building, as far as I understand it. So fire support vehicle requires clear lines of fire to effectively suppress the known or suspected enemy position. Absolutely, I bring that up in the video. From here, he has a clear line of sight on this building and can suppress it all day long. The problem is, of course, that acts in reverse. Everyone along, if you have enemies along this tree line and within the rubble and what have you, anywhere, they also have a clear line of sight on him. So my thought process was, why don't you move over here? You still have a line of sight on the target building, but you reduce the line of sight for enemies over here. They can't effectively combat you, and enemies here can't effectively combat the armored vehicle either, because you're too close for them to use RPGs and what have you, right? So you still have clear line of sight on the target objective here. These guys can't do shit because there's obstacles in the way. You can't shoot at them, but they can't shoot at you, so, you know, win-win. Mines and mobility, absolutely. Pushing close, you may hit a mine if they've thrown them out, scattered them about, but if you move over here, say over here, same thing applies. If you aim front armor at this objective, these guys are facing your front armor, guys over here are facing your front armor, and when you dismount, you have a shorter path to run to reach cover. Right, so essentially you assault this rubble first before you push on to the actual objective in order to find cover so that you can more effectively suppress without taking casualties. Dismounts need space to deploy, and I bring this up in the video as well. Basic training has the squad forming a line with the vehicle as the anchor in the center. That is the mechanized infantry or motorized infantry combat 101. Vehicle in the center, fire teams on the sides, and then you move through. It works well in a forest if you're moving from dashing from tree to tree and the vehicle follows along providing fire support. Also, if you say you get stuck out in the middle, you get hit as you're pushing in, dismount, the enemy are up here and you need to fight through the enemy to fight your way out of an ambush. The vehicle can then try and follow or suppress the enemy as you push up to the enemy, as you're trying to escape the kill zone of the ambush. But in an assault like this, dismounting out here when you have potentially multiple angles where the enemy can shoot at you from, out in the open, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You may, yeah, sure, the BTR is like a small building, but there's still a high risk you're taking shots from multiple angles. Moving over here may reduce a couple of those angles, and you have a shorter distance, and dismounting, having a quick look around, and then rushing into cover is not strange. That is basic doctrine in every army, basically, right? You do not deploy out in the open. You try and move as quickly as possible into cover. So need space to deploy? No, that is not a requirement at all. Target reference points, absolutely. If you move closer to this rubble, it might be easier to call in artillery on you. But I mean, if this is where you have Ukrainians and they say 20 meters south of my location in the field, you can call in mortars, artillery, drones, and whatever pretty accurately. If you have enemies up here and they say the BTR is 20 meters to my south, you can call in drones pretty fast, quickly, and accurate mortars and what have you. It doesn't matter if you push over here, right? If the BTR is stuck stationary out in the field, you call in mortars or whatever, you're going to have infantry out in the open being hit out in the open by indirect fire or drones. So where does the infantry want to be? Do they want to be out in the open without cover, or close to cover where they can dash for a second or two and dive into cover, right? Speed of approach. The open terrain is faster to move through on foot onto the objective than covered terrain. Absolutely, that is true. There's one problem though with open terrain. The lack of cover, which means if you are pushing against enemies in cover, they're more likely to shoot you than you are shooting them. They are in cover, they're a smaller target. Even if you hit straight on, the bullet might get deflected by rocks, trees, and what have you. Meanwhile, you're running without cover, and maybe, yes, you fall flat on the ground. They might throw hand grenades at you, and you're still not in cover. You might throw hand grenades at them, and it lands on the wrong end of that stone wall. He is not maimed, he is not killed. Meanwhile, he chucks a grenade at you. You have no cover, you might get wounded, right? Open terrain is good for quick dashes with vehicles. You make a fast approach across a field, but you move for cover, right? Vehicles and infantry behave exactly the same. You do not stop in the middle of a field to open fire. You move for cover and get as close as possible to where you can hide, make use of cover, or dismount infantry so they can reach cover as fast as possible. And concealed positions, more likely to have mass casualty event from a concealed firing position. This is absolutely true, which is my point. If you have concealed firing positions over here and you dismount out here and his focus is up here, right? So if you're pushing close here, these guys are not as likely to take a shot at you because you've just pushed in close. I mean, it's shock and awe, it's psychology. And if you tell your squad leader as you're pushing up what you intend to do, that you're gonna dismount them close to some rubble, the infantry knows right away that as soon as they step outside, they have rubble on their right that they have to deal with. They go step outside and push to clear the rubble, and might throw hand grenades and what have you to breach, right? Or if they push the objective straight away to do the same. Either way, you want to push into cover, you want to be close to cover, and I mean, if you're out in the open, you're even more likely to have a mass casualty event. I mean, say that they dismount and a guy over here fires an RPG, poof, right here, and takes out all 6 with 1 shot, while the BTR is firing over here. If he's moving up here, bum, 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 and swings around, I mean, spraying this area as you push in, and then spraying over here, I mean, you get that fire and maneuver, you get suppression. Boys pile out and they start firing all around at point blank. Guys up here may not be able to get a shot off before you have suppressed them and start throwing grenades at them. Like I said, no critique. It's just an interesting topic. We also know that this BTR crossed this field in this fashion, like so, and then pushed into town. You can see it's right on the front line. Half of the town is under Russian control. This may be an outflanking maneuver to try and come in behind the Ukrainians, but they have still pushed across this wide open field. Presumably the Ukrainians are aware that the Russians are coming, and then they pushed past this tree line. May or may not have Ukrainians in them. Maybe Russia has pushed out this way and this tree line is under Russian control. Maybe. But I mean, they pushed up here across this field. Minefields? Is there a risk of mines protecting this tree line? It seems reasonable, right? If this is the town and we have prepared defenses, then you could assume that there's mines here. Pushing up here you have vegetation. We already saw on the other image that this is also vegetation. Lines of sight, and where Ukrainians may open fire sideways along the fields here. Lots of buildings, rubble, and we saw there was smoke in the area, so Russia may have prepared with a mortar barrage, or maybe sending in drones to shake up the Ukrainians a bit before the assault. That makes perfect sense. But still, as you can see, multiple angles here from where this BTR can be shot at. It is a dangerous position to stop right out in the open with only 6 guys trying to breach. So right, again, why didn't they could have gone the long way around and deployed over here and pushed into cover. And I mean, if the BTR came in this way and opened fire along the entire length here of the buildings, just going bum 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 bum. Meanwhile, the troops dismount on the side. Remember, on a BTR you dismount on the left and right of the vehicle. At the back end is where you have the engine. They push out into the woods, find cover, get their shit together, and then start pushing into the trees, into the buildings to find cover and to clear out the Ukrainians. Right? Instead of having the vehicle here exposed on every side, every flank, had they taken position here, you can fire along the length of where you have potential enemy units, and you face them with the front armor instead of the side armor or the rear armor, right? Now, obviously, the best way to do it is to have multiple vehicles, not just the one. We often see Ukrainians, when they do assaults like this, they usually try and have 2 vehicles so you can position them to cover each other. For instance, if you move in with one vehicle, it comes in a bit further ahead and the other comes in closer, so the troops can run the shortest distance possible. Meanwhile, that first vehicle can offer fire support down the line, and that other vehicle can offer fire support closer to the dismounts as they're breaching in to the breach point. So But just coming in with one vehicle like the Russians did here in this example, coming across here is how I interpret it. And then I mean, really out in the open to incoming fire from multiple angles. It seems a bit Leroy Jenkins to me, even if they did prepare these buildings with mortar strikes and drone strikes to shake up the Ukrainians located in these buildings. Yeah, I think my critique still stands that Russia should have tried to find a better position where to dismount, closer to cover, where you could have where the vehicle was more secure and where you could push the troops faster into cover so that the squad leader could get things under control and then make decisions on how to push towards the enemy. This is really a Hail Mary maneuver. Don't get me wrong, mechanized assaults should be all about aggression, firepower, and speed, aggression, and firepower. And pushing up like they did, absolutely. But if you're on your own, you really need a better position where to dismount those troops. And to highlight my point here, we have a couple of instances where the Ukrainians have relied on an M113 to conduct an assault. Two vehicles, like I said, this vehicle moves up slightly ahead, can cover a lot of the trenches with suppression. This vehicle is the vehicle that drops infantry. He can cover this part of the battlefield with suppression, and then the troops, as you can see, they have a long way to run across open fields. If you're afraid of mines, absolutely what you're going to do. But even here, if you move the vehicle slightly down here and slightly down here, all the Russians up here, they are facing the front armor, and you're firing along the enemy positions instead of, you know, having your cone of fire reduced to specific points. If you're down here and firing, you can more effectively lay down suppression while the troops are running for the breach point over here. Here you have another M113 really close to the Russian trenches. Troops dismount. This guy steps outside and opens fire with a machine gun along the M113. And you have a couple of guys that dismount. The squad dismounts, and then two guys instantly rush for the trenches to breach. Right? So fanning out on a big line, that is what you do in basic training. In combat, you need to cross the open spaces as quickly as possible to find cover, right? If you have trenches, you want to move through the trenches. You're not going to be advancing up here, right? Same thing down here. M113, they had, in this instance, two M113s working really close, driving up to, they're like, what, 10 meters, 5 to 10 meters away from the tree line, firing with 50 cals into Russian positions hidden in the tree line. Troops disembark right next to the enemy positions, and everyone open fires with machine guns, point blank, into Russian positions, and then you push in and clear them out. Right, so push in close, make use of cover, and give the infantry as short a dash as possible. And if you have to deploy at distance, make sure that you are positioned so that you can get as much suppression on the enemy as possible, and try and give the infantry that short dash that they need to find cover. Like I said, an interesting topic. If you have thoughts, opinions, whatever, let me know down in the comments. Rip my arguments apart all you want. That's part of the reason I'm making this video, to see what you think about it. If you have other opinions, and if you think I'm a complete idiot, I mean, just tell me and explain why, and why you think the Russians did the correct choice and what they did here with the BTR and so on. Would love to read all your comments on this topic. It is interesting and fascinating. Anyway, that's gonna have to be it. As always, go på marsch, Ukraine, and give them hell.